And Megan, you and I are policy writers, and so we, I think, have a particular affection for, well, something we're seeing a lot of today, which are big plans. Big, interesting, policy ambitious plans that if you pass them, it will cut the debt by $6 trillion and insure everybody in the country, and carbon externalities will begin to be priced in, sort of on and on down the line. But of course, some of the times that we've actually moved on deficits, we've seen rather than sort of big bang theories of it, we've seen a series of smaller bills passed over a more extended period of time. In the 90s, of course, we had 3 or 4 separate deficit reduction bills, none of them necessarily gigantic, but all of them significant. How do you see it going this time? Obviously, the big plans get the most attention, but do you think we're going to do it at once, or have a variety of bites at the apple?
I think there's a couple of questions that go into that, because I wonder about the same thing. So I will outline my thinking a little bit, which is earlier the choices were smaller and easier. They were, you fiddle here, you do that. Right now, it's Medicare and Social Security, and that's it, and defense to some extent. And I think that even Republicans are starting to come around to the notion that, like, if they have to choose between tax cuts and defense, they might be willing, or between tax increases and cutting defense, they might be willing to cut defense. So I think we know where the big 3 areas it's going to have to come out of. There's not really any extra room, and part of it is we already did some of the kind of easy, obvious stuff that's coming back to bite us now, like the sustainable growth rate for physician payments and Medicare, which has been annually fixed by Congress to the point where if we actually allowed this, it's an automatic reimbursement reduction. If we actually allowed it to go into effect, it would cut their reimbursements by 30% in a year, and so it's never going to actually go into effect as far as anyone can tell. The other thing that I think is that there's a real danger in budgeting, and I also write a lot about consumer finance, and one of the things that really strikes me when I talk to people who have gotten themselves into deep trouble, and I don't mean someone who maybe ran up $5,000 and it took them a couple of years to get the balance all paid off, but someone who's really gotten themselves into deep credit card problem. So when you talk to them and you talk to them about what their thought process was, they ask themselves, can I afford this, right? Can I afford to go see my mother who's not feeling well? Can I afford to send my kid to private Christian school? Can I afford to do this? What they don't do, and in each case they can afford to do any of these things, but they can't afford to do all of the things that they end up doing. And I think, so there's a real danger in budgeting. You have to always be actually thinking about all of your priorities at once.